Hi Stampers, welcome to fancyforstampin.com. I'm Josie Collar. Today we're going to make this funky looking card using the Happy Celebration stamp set, the Celebrations Duo embossing folders, and the Emboss Resist technique. Let's get started. The things you're going to need are a piece of Bermuda Bay cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 11 inches, Whisper White measuring 4 by 5 1/4 inches, a piece of Whisper White that measures 4 1/4 by 1 1/4, and a piece of Pop of Paradise cardstock that measures 1 1/4 by 4 1/4, and I chose this black and white pattern design. And you're going to need a scrap of basic black and a scrap of crumb cake cardstock. And, about an 11-inch piece of Bermuda Bay thick baker's twine, along with the Happy Celebration stamp set, which I think is like one of the cutest sets that we've got. And good news, it comes out in the new catalog. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you that or not, but I just did. The Celebrations Duo embossing folders. One says Happy and one says Celebrate. We're using the Celebrate folder. We also need to use the Stitch Shapes Framelits dies, and we're going to use the largest oval. So I'm going to pull that out right now and set that aside. And we're using the Layering Squares Framelits. Now I don't know which square this is. Any other way to describe this square other than to tell you it's scalloped and it measures 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. That's the scalloped square we're using from the Layering Squares Framelit dies. Okay, so let me get rid of some of this. And we will, you need your heat tool, and you need white embossing powder, an embossing buddy, all that neat stuff. So we're going to start. I've got my foam pad and my 4 by 5 1/4 piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I've got the circle stamp, the large circle and the large triangle stamp from the Happy Celebration stamp set in Versamark ink. First thing I want to do though is take my embossing buddy and run it over my cardstock to get rid of static. This will keep embossing powder from sticking to places I don't want it to stick. So I'm going to take my triangle and ink it with Versamark and randomly stamp it on my piece of Whisper White cardstock in different ways. Okay, that's good. And then we're going to take this large circle stamp and do the same thing. Randomly stamp it on my Whisper White cardstock. Okay, and once that's done, I can put that Versamark and stamp sets away. And we're going to put some white embossing powder on this. All over it. And we'll heat with the heating tool. I have a little paintbrush I like to use to brush off areas that shouldn't have any embossing powder on it. So I'm going to heat this up with my heat tool. Okay, and we are done with that. I think I might like to turn it this way. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see after I get my ink on it. Okay, we're going to start with a sponge dauber and Bermuda Bay ink. If you've never done the Emboss Resist technique, the ink will not adhere to the emboss images. That's why it's called Emboss Resist. So ink up my dauber, and I'm just going to start adding ink. And it doesn't matter how you do this, we're going to what I mean is it doesn't matter what pattern you use to add the ink. Okay, so we've got some Bermuda Bay. Now I'm going to add new in color ink, Lemon Lime Twist. I love this color. It makes everything pop. And it's okay to overlap parts that you've already added Bermuda Bay ink to. That's what gives it that nice blended look. Okay, I think that's enough of that. Let me add just a little more blue here. Okay, in the next step, close up my ink pads, I'm going to take a tissue and I'm just going to give it a little spritz with some water. We don't want it to be real wet, and I'm going to wipe it off. So we're sort of cleaning up the embossed areas. See, it's coming off. Okay, there we have our background. Our background is done. Isn't that pretty? I think that's really pretty. Okay, I'll set that aside. Next thing we want to do is take our 4 1/4 by 1 1/4 inch piece of Whisper white cardstock and run it through the Celebrate embossing folder. Okay, and I noticed with this embossing folder that it has a tendency to wrinkle up my paper. So what I've learned to do is take my water bottle and just give the inside of the folder just a light spritz with water. And that may be too much, so I'm going to daub it a little. And what this does is it loosens up the cardstock fibers. So we're going to center my piece of cardstock over the Celebrate, just like that while I had it. And I'm going to run it through my embossing, run it through my Big Shot. So that looks about right. So I'm going to go over to my Big Shot and run this through, and I'll be right back. There, that was perfect. I had just enough water in there. The paper didn't wrinkle up. It turned out perfectly. Okay, next thing I'm going to do with Pool Party ink and this stamp, this long swatch watercolor wash, I'm going to stamp over the word Celebrate that I just embossed. Okay, it doesn't totally cover all of the letters, so you have to sort of center it over the word. Just like so. There we go. Pretty sharp, if I do say so myself. So we'll get rid of that. Let me show you something. We've stamped that, now watch, look. Celebrate, celebrate, dance to the music. You can make another card with that image. I should have stamped it on a different piece of cardstock. Okay, so we've done this. I'm going to set it aside. Close up my ink pad. Okay, and the next thing we need to do is cut this large oval out of crumb cake cardstock and a square, my scallop square, out of basic black on the Big Shot. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got my square and my oval cut out. All that's left to do now is assemble the card. So I've got my cardstock base, Bermuda Bay, 4 1/4 by 11. And I'm going to use dimensionals to attach our background piece. And I think I'm going to put it, I'll just leave it this way. So let me add a dimensional in each back corner. And we will just attach it just like so, centered on the front of the base. Okay, the next thing we need to do is take our piece of thick Bermuda Bay baker's twine and wrap it around our fingers twice to make 2 loops and a dimensional. And we are going to just add it right about there. We use that dimensional to hold it down. And we can put another dimensional on it if we need to, because those dimensionals will be covered up by our oval. And I'm going to slant this oval a little, make it a little cockeyed on my card. So I'm going to put 2 dimensionals on either end and remove the backing. And I'll remove the backing on these. And we'll just put that on just like that. Just like that. Perfect. Okay. Now we take our square and we'll add some snail adhesive to the back. And we'll put that on like so. Okay, and then next thing we need to do is attach our DSP to the back of our celebration just ended, celebrate banner. And what I'm going to do is add a little adhesive to the back of celebrate. And I'll put that on there, a little cockeyed, like so. Oh, I've got a little too much hanging over, but that's okay. That'll be just fine. And I'll flip that over and put some dimensionals on it, 1 on either end. Oh, I noticed I probably need a dimensional under here, I think. So let me see if I could slide one. Because I noticed with the baker's twine up here, it's pushing it down so it's flush against the base of the card, and I don't want it to do that. So let me see if I can. There we go. Slide a dimensional under there to help support it. There we go. That's better. Okay, we've got dimensionals on the back of the banner. And they're going to go over like so. think I'll put one in the middle here too. Just for a little extra stability. Like so. And the last thing we need to do is add some rhinestones. And there we go. We are done. That was easy. Well, I hope you enjoyed your visit here today. If you have any questions about what I've done here, please feel free to shoot me an email. Until next time, happy stamping!